Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. We're still in the midst of Depth-December, so we're playing another Dark Depths deck. This one is a bit of a brew. It's a mono-green Depths build. Now I was asked by a subscriber to the channel to try and make this green Depths build work. So they gave me a few draft decks, the sort of draft ideas of what they thought the deck could look like, and I sort of took those and ran with it and went in a few different directions. Pulling a bit from lands, pulling a bit from mono-green cloud posts, and this is where we ended up. So the aim of the game is to get this Dark Depths with this Thespian stage into play and create a 2020 to attack with. Now we've got some of the tools that you'd expect and some of the tools that you might not expect. So we've got a pretty strong land suite of different things we can do here. So we have a Yavimaya, so that between the three lands we can go off that way. We've got a Glacial Chasm, which is a little bit unusual, but I think it's really strong at the moment, especially against the white decks, the initiative decks. We've got Karakas, pretty par for the course. A Maze of Ith, yeah, again, there's a lot of aggro decks, so having a Maze of Ith is quite a handy one. We've got a Boseiju to blow some stuff up, Bojuka Bog, a Dryad Arbor, which is more for the Green Sun Zenith package than anything else, and we've got a Sejiri Steppe. So we have the step plan so we can protect our 2020 a little bit, more so than some other decks can. We also have, so like the mono black one I played the other day, doesn't really have any way of protecting it. So the core of this deck is based off of Exploration to ramp us out a little bit, and Mox Diamond as well, which can kind of do a similar-ish thing. So this should let us cheat the curve and go up a bit further in the curve to get our combo out a bit quicker. And then we've got our crop rotations to help find our pieces. We've got our Sylvan Scryings to help shoot it for lands and find our pieces so we can go off. And then we've got this Green Sun Zenith package. So 4 Green Sun Zenith, and the cards for it is the Dryad Arbor. So it can be a ramp spell on turn 1. I'm not sure if this is necessary for the deck, but we're going to try it out anyway. We've got a Sylvan Safekeeper, which I imagine we're going to be finding quite often. This allows us to protect our 2020, and we should have plenty of lands because we've got 28 lands, I think, in the deck. So we've got plenty of lands to pitch to a Sylvan Safekeeper when the time comes. We've got these Elvish Reclaimers as a 4 of, so this is going to be another one of our engines to keep tutoring for what we need. We've got an Outland Liberator to blow up artifacts and enchantments, and we should be relatively okay at flipping this as well, so we can then attack and blow up multiple things if we need to. We've got Ramunap Excavator, where, especially in a world where we're trying to use Urza's Saga and the Dark Depths combo, as well as things like Ghost Quarter, we're going to be wanting to bring our lands back. We have a Glacial Chasm, which obviously has a sacrifice land trigger on it, so being able to bring things back is going to be really useful here. We have 1 Endurance as Graveyard Hate to go alongside our Bojuka Bog. And to round out the top end, we've got Primeval Titan. This can just find both parts of our combo. It's also a pretty serviceable creature to win the game with on its own anyway. So that's sort of the Green Sun Zenith package that's tying it together. We've got a little bit of a Saga package. We've got 3 Pithing Needles because we're a lands deck. We really want to keep our lands safe. So we've got these 3 Pithing Needles. And we've got a Shadowspear, which we can go and find off of our Urza Saga. So we've got the full suite of 4 Urza Saga here. So we can run the sort of fair beatdown plan using Mox Diamonds and Pithing Needles to accelerate to increase the count to make them larger. We also have another backup plan in form of 1 Field of the Dead, which we can find with all of our land finding stuff and Primeval Titan and so on and so forth, which is why we've got a split of forests and snow-covered forests in this deck. So we've got some forests here and some snow-covered forests. So we've got like a bit of a mixture, so hopefully we can leverage various different plans if we need to. So let's have a look at the sideboard and see how that lines up. So we've got 4 Mindbreak Trap because our deck does not beat Storm. If you look at the stuff we've got here, we're not going to be able to beat the Storm decks. This is the best way we can try and do that. We've got 3 more Endurances, which are going to be good in the Delver matchup. They're going to be good in any sort of graveyard-based matchup as well, which can give us 5 bits of graveyard hate. We can have 4 crop rotation, 4 endurance, 4 Green Sun Zenith, 4 Sylvan Scrying, and the Bojuka Box. We've got plenty of graveyard hate in theory. 4 Force of Vigor because Blood Moon is going to be real tricky for us to beat. Not impossible, but tricky. We just have to have fair beatdown if we get caught under a Blood Moon, so the Force of Vigor can help us out. Also things like 8 cast and so on and so forth. We've got a couple of chokes, which we're going to be bringing in against all these blue X decks that are hanging around. There's a fair few of those. Tend to be slower, so I'm not expecting to see that many of them around. But they could be there. I have a one-off Collector Reef if we need to board this in. I don't really like having this in the main deck when we have Shadowspear and Mox Diamond. But when we're bringing it in, it's going to be better against our opponent than it is against us. So the idea is to board this in against things like 8 Cast and Storm. And we have this 1 Zeranor, which is a target that Urza Saga can find. And the reason for this is Simply put, sometimes you need to gain a bit of life. In this world of white initiative, I think in the old days, what you used to do with lands against aggro decks was hide behind Glacial Chasm and Zeranorb. And we're going to try and replicate those days. I'm not sure if it's still going to be good enough, but Glacial Chasm has impressed me in that matchup. We don't have Life from Malone to really keep rebuying stuff, but we do have Ramunap Excavator, so we can keep ourselves going for a little bit, and we can use the Thespian stage trick to copy our Glacial Chasm so that we can dodge the sacrifice a land trigger and then reset the counters on it. So that's kind of going to be how we're approaching that. Now, the one problem with approaching the matchup that way is that we need to make a 20/20. So in Cloud Post, it's fine. You sit behind your Glacial Chasm until you hard cast an Emrakul, and then it doesn't matter. You let the Chasm go, and then you just replay your Emrakul with the Karakas and just beat them down with it, and you win the game. We don't have that here. We have a 20/20, which can definitely win the game, but we're going to have enough protection in the form of Sylvan Safekeeper and access to the Sylvan and the Sejiri Steppe in order to actually punch through. So whether or not that's going to work, we'll see. Maybe we won't play White Initiative. It could happen. One thing that is absent from the sideboard that you might have noticed, or even from the whole 75, is Dismember. So we have no answers for Magus of the Moon, apart from maybe trying to catch it in combat with an Endurance. Thing is, you can't beat everything with a deck, and we're just going to say, well, we're going to lose to that, and that's fine. So we'll do the best we can. If we come across lots of Magus of the Moons, then we're a bit screwed, but we have Force of Vigor for Blood Moon. And the other thing that you might see that's missing is a Sylvan Library. Now, I would like to fit one in here, but I couldn't think of quite where to squeeze it in because we've got a lot of packages going on in terms of Sylvan Scrying, crop rotations, and so on. So we're not trying to play that long a game. So that kind of had to go by the wayside. But maybe if I revisit this another time, we'll see if we can squeeze one in. All right, I think I've spoken for ages about this deck. I'm relatively excited to see how it plays. I do like Dark Depths strategies, and we are in December, so why not? But before we jump into League, it's that time for me to plug my channel. If you could like and subscribe and comment, that really helps me out. And if you know anyone who's interested in Legacy, by all means share my content with them. With that done, let's jump into a League with Monogreen Depths. Right, so this is the opening hand we've been dealt. So this is a pretty serviceable Urza Saga game, I think. We can play the Urza Saga on turn 1 and start activating on turn 2. That seems good to me. Our opponent is mulligan to 6. So I have a basic forest. We get ourselves an exploration. Get ourselves an Urza Saga. Now we can play out our Mox Diamond here, but I don't think we really need to. Just trying to think reasons why we would want to. We can basically play out our whole hand, but I think we're incentivized to keep cards in hand for the purposes of representing something like an Endurance here. So we can play out Mox Diamond, pitching the Dark Depths, play out the Dark Depths and the Exploration this turn, be completely hellbent. But I think I would rather keep some cards in hand to at least suggest we might be able to do something next turn in our opponent's turn. Because we can do that again next turn anyway. Verdant Catacombs from our opponent. This is giving me Reanimator vibes, maybe? Unmask. Targeting us. Okay, so we're going to get unmasked here. We don't have any Graveyard Hate inside of our Urza Saga package, by the way. We're just relying on the Endurances, Green Suns, crop rotations. So let's see what our opponent has here. Now if they have a Dark Ritual here, just the Entomb. This feels wrong to me. You probably want to do this at my end step. This gives me the chance to do something at sorcery speed to combat it. Okay, so we've drawn a Karakas here. That's pretty good. Now we have a slight issue here. Because we didn't play out the Mox Diamond, we have to use our Karakas to make an Urza Saga token here. Which is not really where we want it to be, unfortunately. Because the Dark Depths does not tap for mana. Now we have the Grizzlebrand covered with a Karakas, but that doesn't actually mean too much. Because our opponent can... Okay, so we're just exhuming... They're going straight for it. So they can just bounce. They can just draw more cards. I think we are supposed to do this in response to this. Sure. Because that way they don't get their cards immediately. They have to go draw another 7 if they want them. Now we can't really get them with the Urza Saga here. Because we don't have any additional Graveyard Hate. Which is another thing that it just wasn't enough room for. So this Faithless Looting plus the 16 cards in our hand, or 14 cards in our opponent's hand, should mean that they are playing whatever they need to this turn. Dark Ritual, Animate Dead, Sema's Emissary, Change from Creatures. Okay, so we can Boseiju away the Animate Dead when the time comes. Our opponent does have an awful lot of cards though. Let's see what we draw here. Now our opponent's got to discard a lot of things here. And we're going to struggle a little bit to get through this. But we do have options here. Come on, Boseiju. Outland Liberator. It's not the same thing, but it's not a million miles away. So this can get us a Mox Diamond. So we can't afford to make So if we pay 2 to make this, then we won't have the ability to... Yeah, I think we just have to... The other option here is we can make a token and try and get a big enough creature. I think we should just be making this and keeping our Karakas up though. I don't think we need to get too crazy here. So we can get the Mox Diamond, or we can get Pithing Needle for Grizzlebrand. I don't think we have to worry about Grizzlebrand right now. Let's get the Mox Diamond. And we'll play out our Outland Liberator. So if our opponent doesn't cast any spells, we can attack with our Outland Liberator and blow up the Animate Dead and then hit our opponent for 3. Okay, so they're coming in for 6. That's fine. This makes me believe that they're going to cast their creature from the graveyard. Do they have an Archon of Cruelty in there anywhere? They do have an Archon of Cruelty, yeah. So I suspect they're probably going to get the Archon of Cruelty out. An Animate Dead on the Archon of Cruelty. So we have choices as to what we decide to blow up here. It's actually a little bit tricky here. So this is definitely coming into play. Is there... So if I blow this up now, do they still get the trigger? I don't know how that works, actually. That's what I think. When it enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchanted creature card. Return enchanted creature card to the battlefield of your crown and attach damage. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifice it. Okay, so I think it's the old wording where if I blow this up now, it might not work at all. So I have to choose which of these two things I want to get rid of here. I think we have to get rid of the Archon of Cruelty. It's the quicker clock. We can Boseiju away the Animate Dead later. And we'll discard this card, doesn't do anything. Yeah, so we can Boseiju away the Animate Dead. We can go for a really horrible line of endurancing our Outland Liberator back in and then trying to get it back again. Not great, but it's an option we have for the future. We don't have a lot of turns. We can make a 2020. Let's have a quick look at our deck list. So I think we are passing here, and we'll see what our opponent musters up here. We can make a 2020 end of turn and try and draw the Boseiju to kill them. We can get a Maze of Ith here and keep ourselves alive. I'm just trying to think if that's... Our opponent's got 8 cards in hand. I think we just have to take this 6 here and then see what our opponent does. A Dark Ritual. We're probably getting the Archon of Cruelty back again here. A Grief. Just hard casting the Grief. So I think we are casting this crop rotation. Sacrifice this. If we go and get the Thespian stage, that gives us Boseiju as a live draw. So Boseiju can win us the game. Now our opponent could then reanimate another creature here. They can't cast actual reanimate because it will kill any of the creatures. It will kill them by bringing back any of these creatures. So they're all 8, I think. Yeah, 4, 8, 4, 8. Yeah, so they're all 8 drops. So if they only have 1 mana, they won't be able to. Okay, so we have one plan to try and execute here. Here goes nothing. Keep this one, make the 2020, as you've seen many times this December. Boseiju wins us the game. That is not a Boseiju. So we cannot do anything here. We can attack and hope our opponent concedes. I assume they know what their cards do. Alright, we're done here. So if we draw a Boseiju there, then we win the game. So I think that was the right choice. If we get the Maze of Ith, when this goes into combat, it buys us a couple of turns, but we're not really going to be winning the game that way. Okay, so we've got these endurances that are definitely coming in. The Collector Roof is okay sometimes. It can shut off Lotus Petals, but I don't think that's how we're winning this game. The Mindbreak Trap can be okay if they have a really big turn 1. But again, I don't think that's really where I want to be. The Pithing Needle stops Grizzlebrand and nothing else. But if they have a Grizzlebrand, maybe we've already kind of lost. Hard to say on that one. I think all of our crop rotation stuff is very good here. Sylvan Scrying is a little slow. I don't think we're in the world of Primeval Titan. Our opponent might just be able to reanimate it against us anyway, so we don't really want that as a thing. I'm not convinced we're going to be Shadowspearing our opponents here. And then we've got to trim one more to make room for all these endurances. Sylvan Safekeeper might not be necessary. Our opponent's probably not going to be interacting with our creatures at all. So I think we can just trim all the packages down and just have all these endurances and see if it's good enough. Yes, I would like to play first. Let's see what our opening hand looks like. No green mana sources. We do have the Endurance and we have the Pithing Needle, but we don't have anywhere to go with this. We've got the Bojuka Bog as well. Do I think we can draw any green source, basically? We've got 12 green sources and a Ghost Quarter. So we're kind of odds on. I think we should keep this one. Let it be known that this is sketchy as, but... Let's play this out on Grizzlebrand. And let's see how we do. Our opponent kept their 7. Which doesn't bode well for us. That means they probably have reanimation and protection. Okay, it feels like they're just waiting for an end of turn. Oh, this is pretty awkward, isn't it? This isn't the turn I really want to play out the Bojuka Bog. Are we going anywhere if we don't cast the Bojuka Bog? That does leave us vulnerable. As ugly as it is, I think we just have to pass with no play here. Not a fan of that, but I think it's better just to have the Bojuka Bog, just in case our opponent doesn't have the play everything in one turn line. Plus 2 mice. So they might go for like... I'm surprised they didn't have an Entomb actually at their end step. A Grief. So let's see which way they stack the triggers here. Okay, so stacked it so I can't get rid of their graveyard with Endurance this turn. Which is a problem. So we could have got rid of the Grief, but they can now reanimate it if they want to, because the Evoke trigger is at the bottom. It's the correct way to stack it. So we're going to lose the Endurance this turn. We don't have the green mana to cast our crop rotation, and we also don't have a Bojuka Bog in our deck, because it's in our hand. I have to imagine that our opponent can reanimate something this turn. They took the crop rotation. That's really interesting to me when I don't have green mana. They might have another discard spell here. Dark Ritual? Is this just going to be show and tell? It is a show and tell. I don't know how useful putting an Endurance into play is going to be. I think we put the Bojuka Bog in. And target our opponent here. Just got this. This doesn't prevent life loss. This is life loss when it attacks. So not great is where we stand right now. Pretty sure we lose. This matchup doesn't feel like it was going to be very good anyway. As I've said many times on my channel, these sorts of effects just aren't good enough to beat Reanimator usually. You need like a permanent in play straight off. So we still don't have any green mana, which isn't really where we want to be. But we have an Urza Saga. We could have played out the Glacial Chasm here and saved ourselves a bit of time. Bought ourselves a bit of time even. But I think we need to... I don't really know what we need to do here. We need to have enough mana to go off, because if we play this, we can't make a 2020. Our hope is making a 2020 at the end of our opponent's. We can't even do that really, can we? Sure, just get rid of the Endurance. I don't think it matters what we do here. I think we're just dead. We didn't hit our green source. Not that it would have even mattered against the show and tell. Well, I just petal from our opponent. I think we're just about ready to pick this one up. A Badlands. Another Faith is Looting. We've got another Archon of Cruelty. They might be able to put this one into play as well. We can copy the Underground Sea, not that it makes a difference. What do we have here? An Elvish Reclaimer that we can't cast. This can get us a Mox Diamond next turn. But we are in heaps and heaps of trouble here. We are playing this. We have to sacrifice this Bojuka Bog. So this will prevent some damage. Our opponent might not know that they can still damage us with the Archon triggers. Maybe we should have played this last turn. Like, I think we're just dead in this game anyway. This isn't going to do anything, is it? Alright. So we're dead on their next attack. The other option we have is, if we have more mana, we could then copy this to buy ourselves another turn. But we just don't have anything going on right now. I'm Pithing Needle. No, we're just dead. We can concede this game. Yeah. So like reanimatory style decks are pretty fast. We don't have that much interaction for them really. And they went for the turn 2 show and tell line after making us discard. So nothing we can do about that one, I think. Let's just move on to the next round. Okay, so we get to be on the play for this one. We have Pithing Needle. We have Urza Saga. We got our combo. I think we can keep this on. Then we start on the stage in case we draw the Yavimaya, because then that lets us go on turn 3. Pithing Needle. This is probably going to resolve. People tend not to cast this, to counter this if someone's playing a blind Pithing Needle. Right. Oh, we're playing against Phil from Old Fabian New. Cool. Chrome Mox my opponent. So I'm expecting our opponent to be on a... Okay, so they're playing one of the decks that I want to play that I don't quite have access to all the cards for yet, which is the Black-White Blink Initiative. So there's a Dark Ritual into Vicious Battle Rager. So this is just a 1/5 initiative, basically. Which is not fine, but it's okay. It doesn't beat for as much damage as the white one, so I think we're okay here. Let's see what we draw. A Mox Diamond. So this isn't quite enough to go off, is it? We are 1 mana shy of going off this turn. So does that mean we want to play out this turn differently? I think we play out this Mox Diamond, and we'll pitch this Thespian stage. And then we can play out the Urza Saga, so our opponent doesn't necessarily think we're going to be dark depthsing that soon. Because if we play out the Dark Depths, I guess our opponent could play an Urborg and help us out. That is the one thing we could play around here. I think we just play this out though. It means our opponent's less likely to be doing scrying type things. Okay, so they're going to get to go into the Undercity and put some counters on this. And we're going to take some damage from Trap next turn as well. So this is going to be 8 damage total before we get to make our 20/20. Now they can get us with things like Source to Plowshares. And they're going to know to hold open for that as well. Let's see what our opponent manifests this turn. An Ancient Tomb, you say. Another Battle Rager. So this is going to put them into the Trap. So it's going to deal us 5. Do we need to turn Thespian stage into an Ancient Tomb end of turn? Maybe. I think that's fine to do here. That's back to us. A Misty Rainforest. Sure. So we have a 20/20 available to us. Our opponent has to... So this could be the mono black initiative deck with just a little splash, or it could be the full on black-white. I imagine it has to be full on black-white due to the Ephemerate being in there. But they're going to draw a card this turn, and they might be able to Ephemerate some stuff here. If we make a guy unblock, these guys deal you 5. So it's actually better to let these guys through than block them. Just kind of a weird design of that card. So they could also have some sort of Sudden Edict type effect, which can kill a 20/20. But at this point, we just have to go for it and see how we do. Opponent does have white off of the Ephemerate here. Off of the Chrome Mox with Ephemerate imprinted. Okay, so they're tapping out of white mana. A White Plume Adventurer. Sure, this is going to put them into Throne of the Dead 3. Which is a lot. Let's see what they find. If they find a creature with flying, we can still get the Shadowspear. Okay, just a Seasoned Dungeoneer. So this is going to send them back into initiative to get another white source, which means they can hold up Source to Plowshares. Unfortunately, we don't have a crop rotation here. So we do the thing. We don't really have a choice here. We are quite behind. Now, they want to do it now if they have it. Okay, they don't have it. You do it then, because if I untap into crop rotation, that's super bad for you. Like this. I should have floated then, but I didn't. Do I need to Pithing Needle here? I don't think so. I don't have any flyers. Just get Mox Diamond. I'll pitch this. And play out a land. We'll get attacks. 20 damages. Sometimes they won't have it. Cool. So, Zuranor was one of the cards I wanted for this matchup. For reasons. Collector Roof here is actually pretty good. Because it slows down all their Chrome Moxes and can really shut them off of a colour. The only problem is, in order to get it out early, we're going to need to use our Mox Diamond. So it's kind of one of those ones where I think it's just on the wrong side of being good enough here. Endurance doesn't really do anything against our opponent's deck. The Sylvan Safekeeper is going to be very good here, and we're going to want to leverage that. The Shadowspear is something we probably need. The Pithing Needle names Touch of the Spirit Realm, which is going to be important here. So I think we probably need to keep that one. I don't think we have time to be playing Primeval Titan in this matchup. Which does get us like a Force of Vigor here, probably. That's more or less how we're boarding. We could board in some more of these guys just to steal the initiative with. But the Outland Liberator does blow up some of our opponent's things, so I don't hate that. It's a case of, is an Endurance going to be better than Sylvan Scrying in this matchup? I don't think so. I think we need to find our bits and pieces and our Glacial Chasms. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay. So, what does our opening hand do? This opening hand has a lot of mana, but doesn't really go anywhere with it. We can't even cast our Force of Vigor until we're hard casting it. This is going to be a mulligan from me. This does have access to our combo. We have the Green Sun Zenith. to sort of tie the room together if needs be. It's very weak, this hand. I think we have to keep it, though. We can put the Dryad Arbor away, at least. The other option we had is trying to float a fetch land and maybe sneak in with a Dryad Arbor and steal the initiative, but I don't think that's realistically going to work against foe here. Okay, so we're getting griefed. Is this getting ephemerated? So they can see what we have first and then think about ephemerating it. They can let the first trigger resolve. So they're doing the Malakir Rebirth. Sure, so we're going to lose a lot of our hand here. So we're going to be losing probably the Green Sun Zenith, but it could be the Scrying. He's already seen our hand, so he knows what we've got, so it shouldn't take him too long to decide there. Sure. So we are a bit far behind. Exploration is a pretty good top deck, though. So we can play out this Exploration, play out another land. That kind of helps us accelerate, because obviously our opponents accelerate a 4-drop out. They've used quite a big chunk of their hand to do so, but they can just drop like Ancient Tomb, White Plume Adventure this turn and really put the screws in. We do not want to draw the Dryad Arbor this turn. I think we crack this now. Now they can kill this, which I don't really hate, because we're not really using it for anything in particular. So, I think we cast this. Go get ourselves a Thespian stage. Play this out. Play this out. We have drawn pretty well. I won't lie. Now, our opponent has been holding up this white source for a while, so I have to imagine they have the ability to kill a 2020. But it will give us a lot of health to keep working with. We're going to have to lose 2 of our permanents in order to make a 2020, which is normally a pretty fair cost. But we might be incentivized to wait until we have a crop rotation. Our opponent could even have 2 removal spells in the form of Solitude and... like our opponent's deck is definitely running Solitude. So what do we need to do here? We need to cast this on Touch of the Spirit Realm. What was it called? Touch the Spirit Realm, that's the one. And we can either play this out now, or we can hold it to try and mess with something our opponent can have. I think we just play this one out and see if they have it or not. We've covered one of their answers to our thing, and we have the ability to cover a Sudden Edict. We can cover that with our Dryad Arbor. So we're going to take another 3 here. Apparently just slowly beating us down. I don't think we actually need to go for it this turn unless our opponent taps out. Okay. Let's play around. Let's draw a crop rotation this turn. A Dark Depths is not a crop rotation. Okay, I think this turn we will go for it because we have the spare Dark Depths, so we're already half the way there. Now if we gain 20 life, then we gain 20 life. A Dark Ritual. Okay. Something's coming. A Thoughtseize. Sure, you can have a look at our hand. Another Dark Ritual. Is this going to be a Shouldered? Pasture Seer. Okay, so this is just another guy that has the initiative. So they're going to go and get a Plains here, so they can source the Plowshare as our creature. This gains life, because it's a lifelink guy, so it's going to give them a way of getting through some damage, to getting through a single hit from the Marit Lage, which is not ideal for us. So I think this turn we are going to copy this now. Well, I think we're at that stage of the game. If we draw another Thespian stage, we can go again. But with 1 white open, the only way our opponent kills this is by giving us 20 life. They should do it now, so we're less likely to draw Touch the Spirit Realm. Not Touch the Spirit Realm, crop rotation. Sorry, getting card names wrong, so I'm a bit tired. So we're going to gain ourselves 20 life here. Do they have the Ephemerate? They do not. Okay. So it's back to us. If we draw a Thespian stage, that'd be great. An Exploration. It's not a Thespian stage, but I think we still cast it anyway. We've bought ourselves some turns. So the initiative deck can definitely clock you pretty fast, even if we have gained 20 life. So we're going to need to find something soon, but we have Sylvan Scrying, we have Crop Rotation, we have Green Sun Zenith, which is a good draw, we have Elvish Reclaimer, which can sort of 2-step our way there. Urza Saga is not a terrible draw, it's fine. The 2/3 Ramunap Excavator is a good draw here. I think next turn we block with the Dryad Arbor potentially, because we can soak up more damage. They're not going to burn a removal spell on this unless it's lethal the turn they do it. Alright. Seasoned Dungeoneer can be a problem for us, but Forest isn't really where we wanted to be here, but we'll leave it in hand in case our opponent thought seizes and takes their life total below 20. I don't know if we want to attack. I think we attack for 1 here to put our opponent to 20. I think we're blocking this turn, and we get the initiative as well to clean our deck out a little bit. So, let's get the Snow-Covered Forest. And we'll play this one out. We'll leave the other one in hand, just in case our opponent wants to thought seize us. So we're taking 6, 7, 8, 9 this turn, and they're going to get the initiative back and then trap us. So they're going to hit us for another 5. So time is short, I would say. But maybe we can just gain another 20 life. So we're going to manually remove some counters from Dark Depths. I suspect we're not going to have enough time to do that. But in a world of Glacial Chasm, who knows, right? Let's remove some counters. That's the stage we're at now. So our opponent has lethal on board now. We can block this next turn if we have to. A Bojuka Bog. What does this do? Nothing. Target our opponent with it though. And we hope that we can block with our Dryad Arbor this turn. They're not even incentivized to kill our Merit Lage when we do play it now. I think we are just dead here. But I'd like to see a few more things from our opponent's deck if possible. Mox. What are they putting inside their Mox? Passageway Seer. Okay, so they're just casting this White Plume to go into Throne of the Dead 3. If we get a Glacial Chasm, it buys us a turn. And then we can draw Ramunap, which buys us another turn. So if we draw Glacial Chasm this turn and Ramunap the following turn, I think we get to keep playing this game for a little bit longer. What are they revealed here? A Grief and Solitude. Okay, so now we are just dead. Okay, so do we want to change up our Pithing Needles and for some more Force of Vigors? Do we want to try and collect through for our opponent if we're on the play? These are good and important questions. The only problem is, again, we can only make the collect through by playing the Mox Diamond. I think it's a case of whether or not we want a Pithing Needle or I think we can drop a Pithing Needle for another Force of Vigor. Try it this way. Let's see if we can get a good hand here. I think this constitutes a good hand. We can keep this one. We're not actually playing out our Mox Diamond here. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. We're in a kind of annoying way, because what we can do is we can crop rotate away our forest. So we can play out forest first, and then crop rotate it away to look for the Thespian stage, which I don't hate. We can't really play out our Mox Diamond without getting rid of our forest, which kind of makes our crop rotation bad. So I think we have to play out forest and Zuran Orb. And then we hold up the crop rotation and see what our opponent does. Because if they grief us, we might just need to fire this off. We'll probably lose the Mox Diamond, but we're live for drawing any mana in our deck at that point. Okay. Is this going to be a White Plume? Sure, just a White Plume. That's fine. So they're getting themselves a swamp. Let's see what we find. A Force of Vigor. Not really big on the Force of Vigor now. We play this out. We can't play out the Mox Diamond. We needed to draw a land that turn, really. But if we can draw a land on the following turn, I think we're good. If we draw a Yavimaya, we are absolutely golden. I don't really want to have to go into the Glacial Chasm just yet. What is it? Seasoned Dungeoneer? Seasoned Dungeoneer. Sure. So we can Maze of Ith here, but then we're not really going anywhere. So we have a choice now. Whether we try and turtle behind a Glacial Chasm for a few turns with this hand that doesn't really go anywhere, or we just try and make the big guy. I think we just have to try and make the big guy. We can do a Desperation Glacial Chasm if we need to. But that's a problem for later, I think. We need to try and draw a land, which is the most likely thing that we draw this turn. A Green Sun Zenith is not a land. So what are we doing here? So this is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't think we win trying to do a Glacial Chasm line here. Just gonna get a Dryad Arbor. Like, I was pretty odds on to draw a land. The fact I haven't is the variance you expect in Magic sometimes. Sometimes it'll win you games, sometimes it'll lose you games. We got another one. Another Seasoned Dungeoneer. This is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If both the Explorers hit the right way. So we might have to sacrifice a land here, which which is pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Well, we're not dead this turn, I guess. But we're certainly not alive. Thought seeds. So it's going to hit us pretty hard. Let's see what we have. We have to go into the Glacial Chasm this turn, probably. And Urza Saga. I guess that's the world we're living in, isn't it? So we're probably Urza Sagaing. We're getting rid of the Urza Saga here. I think we can realistically win this game. Okay, we get to see a few more cards. Source to Plowshares, okay. It's going to be hard to beat. You can just sacrifice a land here. Probably has to be the Dark Depths. Sorry, state of affairs. Now, our opponent gets to go into the trap pretty soon and kill us. We've bought ourselves a turn, which is the best we can hope for. Okay, so we got a couple of turns here. Let's see what we find. Another Mox Diamond. That's pretty funny. The wheels have most assuredly fallen off here. So the Glacial Chasm doesn't save us next turn because they just go into trap. So we are pretty dead here. Yeah, I feel we were a bit unlucky with the variance on that one. We were odds on to draw a land, but we just didn't hit one, so we didn't get to make our 2020. In that game, it's quite different if we have a 2020 in play, obviously. But alas, you don't get a lot of wiggle room against the black-white decks. Well, against the initiative decks. So, all right, let's go on to the third round. Okay, so this is our opening hand. What do we do with this? Not a lot, really. I think we should mulligan it. Like, we can play a very slow Saga game. I think we're better off mulliganing. Exploration is a card that I like to see in my opening hand. I would like to see more lands in my opening hand as well, but I think we can keep these, and we're probably not looking at casting this Primeval Titan anytime soon. So put this back. Our opponent is on the play. Flagstones. Okay, so this looks like... Oh, okay. I thought it might be... because it's the Euron deck, I thought it might be blue. I haven't seen the Death and Taxes builds for a little while, but here we are. We play this out. Crack this for a green source. Power Exploration. I think we are just playing out a Sejiri Steppe just to get more mana in the tank for next turn. If they wasteland us, that's pretty annoying, but it is what it is. A wasteland, okay. They're not hitting on Sejiri Steppe. Spirit of the Labyrinth. This doesn't impact our deck. Back over to us, I think. A Dark Depths. Okay. So, I think we Sylvan Scrying this turn for a Thespian stage. And we play out Thespian stage. Then we play out Pithing Needle. Just going to put Mother Runes in. Sure, I don't care about that. We're naming a wasteland here. And then we play out our Dark Depths. So next turn we can make a 2020. Now our opponent is a Swords to Plowshares Solitude deck, so there's a high chance they can deal with it, which will be irritating. But if they don't have it, then we get to go. Feels like we don't have the same amount of protection that I would like in this deck, and we don't have the Life from Loams to buy it back. So I'm sort of seeing the weaknesses of this deck a little bit. Sanctum Prelate, sure. This is probably going to name 2, I would imagine. Yeah, sure. But we've already cast our Sylvan Scrying, so we're more likely to draw a crop rotation anyway. We can take 3 here. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. Have to hope they don't have a Flicker Wisp, really. Draw another Pithing Needle. Another Thespian stage. I think we are playing this one out. And then we pass the turn. We don't have a second green source to cast this Endurance, which is a recurring problem I'm seeing with the amount of green source in this deck. It's got more than your average Cloudpost deck, actually, in terms of green sources, but we're not really getting there. So Flicker Wisp is going to end us pretty badly here, if that's what they have off the Etherval. So hopefully they'll tap it and put in a Recruit of the Guard or something. But what they should be doing is playing Recruit of the Guard and getting Flicker Wisp into their hand, if that's the card they have available. The If they activate the Aether Vial, they could be putting in a Loran to blow up our Pithing Needle. So if they activate Vial, we're probably incentivized to activate the Thespian stage. A Karakas. Okay, that's a pretty bad one. We can't really beat the Karakas just yet. We don't have a second green source to ambush one of these guys. So we're going to need... What are we going to need here? We need a Green Sun Zenith to go and find Sylvan Safekeeper. Let's see what we draw. A Ghost Quarter. Well, this does the thing we need it to do. Never doubt the Ghost Quarter. As a man who loves to wasteland people, repeatedly Ghost Quartering someone is even sweeter because you get to take every last land out of their deck. No more basics for you. So we do this at end of turn, we hit the Karakas. We'll make a 20/20. And hope it's good enough. It might not be still. But the best we can do is try. So this is on 4 now, so it could be Palace Jailer. 3, 6, 7, 8. I think we just have to take this. We're not... The Mother of Ruins is going to stop us being able to block anyway. Or being able to kill the creature. This is a Recruiter of the Guard. This is the bad one. This is going to go and get Palace Jailer, isn't it? And then they can Palace Jailer in with the Aether Vial. So I think we're probably done here. Could get Solitude and give us 20 life. That would be a misplay, but they could do it. There's the Palace Jailer. So, how do we beat this? Like, we're always Ghost Quartering this. That's a given. And we're doing it in the main phase so we can go their end step when they don't have the mana floating. So, if we make the 20/20 now, we get Palace Jailered. So we don't think we can actually make the 20/20 right now. As sad as that is. A Thespian stage. That doesn't do it, does it? We should have Thespian stage end of turn, copy the forest. We still died, though. I think we're done there. We just got Death and Taxes out there. They had the right pieces on the right turns, which was a little bit unfortunate for us. These Force of Vigors are going to be pretty good. The Endurance is... It can kill their creatures, but outside of that, it's not doing much. Primeval Titan is actually pretty decent in this matchup. It's a nice big fatty that we can go and fetch. Pithing Needle is pretty essential here. The Shadowspear is essential. We could try and play a slower game by boarding out our Mox Diamonds, because our opponent is a relatively slow deck. And then we'd just be looking for one more cut here. We don't need our Bojuka Bog in this matchup, do we? Is there any other lands in here that we don't really need? The Maze of Ith is going to be good. The Saga is going to be good. Misty Rainforest. The Glacial Chasm is going to have text on it. So now the question is, do we want some more Endurances, or do we just want to try and go up the curve and hit a Primeval Titan here? Or is a Primeval Titan... Maybe we're just better off with an Endurance here. Let's try this. So we're on the play. We've actually finally drawn an Elvish Reclaimer, which is nice. This hand looks pretty good. I think we'll keep this. We have protection from our guy as well. One of the best turn 1 plays we can have. Not unhappy about that. Now we will need to struggle through some wastelands here. Rishdam Port into Aether Vial. It's not fine, but we can live with it. We're going to draw this turn. A Force of Vigor. So you can float the Aether Vial this turn, which I quite like. It'll cost us a Green Sun Zenith. We kind of already have all the things we need for the Green Sun Zenith. This is probably going to get us a Yavimaya next turn, I think. This turn we get Yavimaya. Or we get Yavimaya and then we turn this into a stage. But then we play this out and we don't have enough mana to play the Sylvan Safekeeper, which we definitely need. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I think we are probably Force of Vigoring our opponent's Aether Vial here. And I think we have to get rid of the Green Sun Zenith here. We could try and catch more things, but I think it's best just to get that over and done with. It's one of the best ways they can interfere with what we've got going. So the Field of Ruin here is a colourless source, so I'm not particularly bothered about that. I think we are activating this, sacrificing this. We're going to get ourselves a Yavimaya. That gives our opponent green mana, but I don't think they can really use green mana. So probably going to port us this turn. I imagine they get rid of our green source. Or, oh, actually, no, they don't need to get rid of our Saga, right? That makes sense. Because all of our sources are green sources, of course. So this turn, I think we are... I think this turn we play out the Dark Depths here. And we can hold up the Reclaimer to shuffle anything away that we feel the need for. And we have the Urza Saga getting Pithing Needle to shut down something scary. an Ether Vial. That's a bit too late, I think. So this turn we can go and get... We can turn the Urza Saga into a stage here if we want to. But we have one for crop rotation. No, I think we are fine here. So we'll float green off of this. We'll go and get ourselves a Pithing Needle. We'll name Wasteland. Or do we name Karakas here? No, we name Wasteland because we have the Sylvan Safekeeper already. Play this guy out. Play this out. And then we pass the turn. So we can make a 20/20 end of turn. We will have one land to protect our guy with. Will that be enough? I don't know, but it's something, isn't it? Our opponent does have a lot of cards in hand, but they haven't had white mana this turn, so it's green, and we will crop rotation, sacrificing this. If it goes horribly wrong, we still have a 3/4. So this goes and gets us our Thespian stage. This can copy this because we have green mana from the Dark Depths. Keep this one. Make a 20/20. Do you have 2 Solitudes? That's what you need. 2 Solitudes and 2 white cards to go with it. They do not. Excellent. So we got to pick up a game there. Now, are we happy with these Force of Vigors? Or would we rather have a Collector Roof since we've boarded out some other bits and pieces? So maybe we can take out Shadowspear and put in a Collector Roof. Or we take out a Force of Vigor, put in a Collector Roof. Do we still want the Shadowspear just so we can potentially race if that comes up? I think that's probably okay. This is a non-bow, but it's only 2 cards. I think we can keep this. Again, we have no green mana, so we have to mulligan. This has green mana and an expiration, so this is a pretty good keep to me. We have double green source, which is a nice change. Question is, do we want this Thespian stage or not? I think the Thespian stage is probably, the second Thespian stage is probably the weakest card in the hand. I think we are Exploration, Urza Saga on turn 1. So we can get more green sources here as well, if we need to. A basic plains, no Ether Vial. That's fine for us. Our opponent mulligan to 5, so that's not great for them. Put out this Exploration. Put out this Urza Saga. Now our opponent can wasteland this, but they are on reduced resources due to their mulligan. So if this does stick, we can grind through them pretty effectively. Okay, there's the Karakas. What have they found? Spirit of the Labyrinth. Sure, we don't care about that. If we draw a second green source, we can come at it. Okay, so we can just play the Urza Saga game. If we had a Yavimaya, we could do things a little bit differently. We could go and get Collector Roof. I don't think that's going to make any difference here. We can crop rotation for Yavimaya and then put a Endurance into play and gobble up the Spirit of the Labyrinth. I don't hate that. It does expose us to Wasteland though. Or we can make this Urza Saga and try and ride the Saga train where our opponent's got reduced resources. Also, Urza Saga can gobble up the Spirit of the Labyrinth as well if they attack. I suspect they just can't attack this turn. Oh, they are attacking. Okay. I will have a 1/1 to trade with your 3/1. Okay, if they're using Swords to Plowshares on that, that's pretty good for us. So they hit us for 2 this turn and expend a Swords to Plowshares on something that was like a third of a card. A Mother of Runes. Sure. So this turn. What are we doing this turn? We probably crop rotate this away. I think that's relatively straightforward. So alternatively, pay this for 1, 2, 3. We won't have enough mana to... What are we going to do with our colourless mana here? If we crop rotate away, we can go and get green mana off of it. That seems fine. So we will crop rotation, sacrificing this. So this can go and get us probably a Yavimaya. And we search for a Pithing Needle, I think, here. We name... Do we rather name Wasteland or Karakas here? I think it is the Wasteland again. Even though the Karakas is on board. So now we have choices. We can play out this Outland Liberator and the Elvish Reclaimer. Now we could have used Outland Liberator to hit the Spirit of the Labyrinth, but we don't really care about the Spirit of the Labyrinth right now. So what our game plan is this goes and gets us Sylvan Safekeeper, this gets us the Dark Depths, and then we win the game. We will not block this because they'll just Mother of Runes anyway. Our opponent kind of has to cast a spell, otherwise we're going to attack with this, and it forces the Mother of Runes. Unlicensed Hearth. This doesn't really matter to us, I don't think. Makes Ramunap Excavator worse, but that's about it. Thespian Stage. It's a land. We like lands. So I think we are supposed to green Sun Zenith first, though. Just get the Sylvan Safekeeper. It also gives us more lands to sacrifice later on if we need to. So they can crew this and do things like Outland Liberator as well. So I think we just hold back here. Sure, you can exile those. So our opponent's probably going to attack us for 3 this turn. We got loads of life to work with. So we can just take that. This is never going. Our Elvish Reclaimer is never going to be a 3/4 in this game because of the unlicensed test. Which is the other thing it does. But we're not really playing this because it can become a 3/4 in this particular deck. This is just another tutor here. Mother of Runes. Sure, that's unexciting. Okay, so it's down to us, is it? So we're going to get rid of these. I think we probably get rid of redundant Thespian Stage here. Just gets us a Dark Depths, which can tap for green mana because of the Yavimaya. That's our turn. We have another Dark Depths. Okay, so if we had kept the stage, we could have gone again. But I don't think we're going to need to go again here. We can make the 2020 now and then have a Dark Depths to back it up with our Safekeeper. I think I quite like that play, actually. But no, our opponent gets to do 2 interactions with the Karakas. Actually, that's a bad play. We don't need to do that. Although that does give us enough mana to then get the Sejiri Steppe as well, but Sejiri Steppe can't protect us from Karakas. Our opponent's hand has got to be good, I think. I think we're about to get on the board, hopefully, with this deck. They're tapping out their Karakas. A Flicker Wisp. Exile another target permanent. Sure. What permanent are you going to target? The Karakas. Sure, that's fine. So we target this, tapping this for green and this for green. Keep this one. Make a 2020. We have 2 lands to sacrifice for this. They can't Solitude because they have no other cards in hand. I think we have this one. We do have to get through the Flicker Wisp, but that's fine. So we will give this Shroud. We will sacrifice this land. So we use a Reclaimer and this to go get Sejiri Steppe next turn. Just give this protection from white so it can sail through our opponents with Flicker Wisp. There we go. So we won the match. So we got one on the board. That felt a bit like an old-fashioned green-black depths type hand, to be honest. The way that all played out. Sort of just getting the Safekeeper, getting the protection, sort of forcing our guy through eventually. Sort of finding the piece of the puzzle. Opponent mulliganing to 5 definitely helped. We saw how dangerous their deck can be against us in terms of all the Karakas, Wasteland, Port, Solitude, Swords, Aether Vial to put in their Flicker Wispy Palace Jailers. So yeah, I'm happy with how that went, obviously. I think we navigated that fine, but we did get a little bit lucky in terms of our opponent's mulligan that last one. All right, let's go to the next round. We're on the play for round 4. If my hand had another green source, I would quite like it. It's still fine, don't get me wrong, but it would be a lot better with another green source because we'd be able to get this Elvish Reclaimer up and running. I think we keep, though. We have to choose what we're doing with this, though. We might be just playing the Reclaimer on 1, and then we can activate it on 2. I think that's the quickest way to get to where we need to be. Because you play the Reclaimer on 1, next time we play Exploration, play 2 lands, we can then use the Reclaimer to sacrifice 1 and turn it into the Dark Depths, untap. If we draw any land that's untapped, we get to make our 20/20 on turn 3. That seems fair to me. A lot of people would probably want to play out the Exploration first, but that only works if we have a second green source, really. Play this out, go and get ourselves Basic Forest. Play out our Elvish Reclaimer. Now this represents quite a few decks for our opponent, including the deck we are actually playing. So, well, they're probably not going to know we're mono-green depths, but they might think we are a depths deck of some description. Like green-black slow depths. Which I might play on the channel for Depths December soon. Tinder Wharf, my opponent. This means our opponent's probably playing something like Belcher, which is a matchup that we are probably going to lose pretty handily here. We do have an Endurance, which could be relevant. If our opponent goes for some sort of line where... Okay, so they're gambling away here. So if they gamble and put a Echo of Eons into the graveyard, they put the Lion's Eye Diamond into the graveyard. That doesn't feel like the one you wanted to discard there. You've got to play your Lion's Eye Diamond out first there. Our opponent may have punted this game. They have one card in hand. Okay, so our opponent punted that hand and they're on Belcher by the looks of it. So we get these Mindbreak Traps in. The Endurances have text. The Collector Roof has text. This is one of those matchups where you want the Collector Roof. Sylvan Safekeeper probably isn't really relevant for this matchup. Primeval Titan is going to be a prospect for way, way down the line. I don't think we need Ramunap Excavator either. The Glacial Chasm could come in handy if our opponent is playing Goblins, but the Maze of Ith won't be useful here. The Outland Liberator, probably not good enough. Pithing Needle. We haven't. This looks more like a Belcher, so it's not going to be like Wishcore Talismans and things. So I think we can take out the Pithing Needles, and that leaves us a pretty clean 8 for 8, which is a big sideboard. But I think we're probably all right with that. Most of the time, what's going to happen is we're going to try and Mindbreak Trap our opponent and beat them down with Endurances. So we're going to submit like this. Now we are going to play our Mox Diamonds out in a way that can get shut off by our own Collector Roof, but it's going to be so good against our opponent that it'll be worth using a Mox Diamond as a really bad Lotus Petal in order to play it. I think we just have to mulligan to Mindbreak Trap against our opponent because they're some sort of Belcher type deck, which is a turn 1 combo deck. Now our Endurances are nice, but they're not going to get into it. Also our hand is bad anyway, so we just mulligan this one. There is a Mindbreak Trap. We keep this, and we probably get rid of the excess exploration. Right, opponent, do your worst. Or maybe not your worst, but... Lion's Eye Diamond. Sure. Land Grant. Let's see what our opponent's working with. Okay, so our opponent can't interact with us here. At least they can't right now. So there's a Tiger. Let's see how far they go. There's a Rite of Flame. There's the Chrome Mox. What's this going to imprint? Probably the Burning Wish, and they can gamble for the Echo Vions. There's the other Spirit Guide. There's the gamble. We'll let them cast the Echo Vions and then we'll Mindbreak Trap it. That should be the game. It's sadly the price you pay when you play a Belcher deck. So we play out our Exploration. This time we have the green mana so we can play both of our things out. Like this, we go and get a basic Forest, a non-snow one, just to have different names in case the Field of the Dead becomes relevant. Seems very unlikely in this matchup, but strangest things happen. And then we play out our Elvish Reclaimer. The next turn we can go and get the Dark Depths, and then turn after we make a 20/20. So we have to fade 2 of our opponent's draw steps. So the way we come undone is if they draw Lion's Eye Diamond and Echo Vions. If that's their next 2 draw steps, then we can probably lose this game. But that's 2 very specific draws. Now Gamble and Burning Wish can both be Echo Vions. So they need to draw one of their 3 Lion's Eye Diamonds there, which is going to be the hard one for them to get hold of. Okay, we don't care about that. Playing these out. We pass through the turn. We go and find our Thespian stage. Not a Thespian stage, our Dark Depths. Right, Flame. Okay, this could be bad. Goblin Charbelcher. Okay. So this deals damage, so Glacial Chasm can break this up. So I think we are still fine. So I think we'll sacrifice as Urza Saga. This isn't an Urza Saga type game. We'll get Dark Depths. And we'll untap. An Endurance. We'll end the turn. So a Lion's Eye Diamond or any mana source can give them the Charbelcher here. Which is going to set us back some turns for sure. Okay, so we will go and get ourselves good old fashioned. Did we take the Glacial Chasm out? No, we didn't. Is that good? I think we have to sacrifice the Forest here. So we're looking to draw a Yavimaya. And these get shuffled back in, right? Put the reveal cards on the bottom in any order. So they get to stack their deck now, which is a little bit awkward for us. We might even be incentivized to use the Endurance here. I have to spend a long time stacking this. But I think we do have to Endurance it. Can they actually beat... They can probably Burning Wish for something to buy them some time. To get through our clock of Glacial Chasm. So if we draw another mana source of any description, we can turn it into a Yavimaya, which then can give us the Dark Depths. Now, there is an issue in terms of our opponent having this at instant speed, which means we can't really let our Glacial Chasm shields down to even attack, which is annoying. So we will be paying here, obviously. We've got a lot of life to work with. We just got to keep the Charbelcher from hitting stuff. Now, the Charbelcher can hit our Elvish Reclaimer. Our Elvish Reclaimer can't attack. A Sylvan Scrying. We sack this to go and get Yavimaya. And then we cast Sylvan Scrying on the next turn. Okay, so we'll evoke this. We'll stop our opponent having stacked their library. It's a little bit ugly, but it's fine. Yeah, so we have to turn the Thespian stage or the Dark Depths into a Yavimaya. Oh wait, we don't have the second mana source yet, do we? We can't do this quite yet. We need another mana source. If we have any mana source, we might be able to Sylvan Scrying anyway. Right, we're in a funny old game. We might be in a situation where we have to draw something to stop the Charbelcher. Should have kept the Pithing Needles in as well. A Burning Wish. That's a pretty good top deck. What are they going to find? Dismissal. Right, so they can get a bounce spell. They can get some mana so they can activate Charbelcher next turn. Or, you know, whenever it is the right turn for them to activate it. Echo of Eons. Okay, so they're going for spinning the wheel on us when they can. Maybe I shouldn't have sacrificed my forest to the Glacial Chasm. A Bojuka Bog. It's a mana source. It doesn't get rid of anything, but it's a mana source, so next turn we can maybe do something. Now, if our opponent only has sorcery speedways of getting enough mana for Goblin Charbelcher, then we'll be okay. Because we let this Dino up, keep them bash for 10. For 20, sorry. Weird game, this. Another Burning Wish. Our opponent has drawn pretty well there. So next turn we take 6, which puts us to 7. So we can't actually take another hit off the Glacial Chasm after that unless we copy it with the Thespian stage. And then we can then copy the Thespian stage in the upkeep. We can turn it into a Dark Depths and then let it die that way instead of the cumulative cost. That gives our opponent a turn. A Reverent Silence. Destroy all enchantments. You may have each other player gain 6 life. I would like to gain 6 life, so please do that. This would be a great time to draw a Yavimaya. A Shadowspear. Is that worth doing anything with? I don't think it is. So I think this turn we go... This we go... Sacrifice... tap these 2. Sacrifice the Bojuka Bog. This goes and gets us Yavimaya. Now we can cast this Sylvan Scrying for Boseiju. Next turn we let the... I think we probably let the Yavimaya die. Not the Yavimaya, the Glacial Chasm die, and we... But with this trigger on a stack, we Boseiju away the Charbelcher. This has been a very weird and long game for a Charbelcher, so... And it can still go either way. It's quite exciting, actually. It has 3 cards in hand. This is a sorcery as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to Boseiju, targeting this. We'll tap Yavimaya and Glacial Chasm to do so. They probably won't have any basics to fetch. Add green, add this, and we will sacrifice this land. We will go and get ourselves... What's going to be useful here? Guess we can just get another Thespian stage in case we need it. The Dark Depths we don't need. Sure. So our opponent has this turn to try and get us. They get one more draw step as well, right? So Lines of Diamond will be good. Desperate Ritual. It's a bad start for us. Burning Wish with 1 red in the pool. Just gamble. Is there a gamble in their sideboard? They can try and then gamble for Lion's Eye Diamond. And then they have a 1 in 3 shot of not discarding the Lion's Eye Diamond. Goblin Warstrike. Deals damage to in the number of goblins you control. Okay, so they've gone for a goblin line, but they only have 3 cards in hand and none of them make goblins yet. But I see why they've gone for that strategy. An Endurance. Is this going to be useful? We can't pitch the Endurance, but we can cast it. But if we do cast it, we can't make... we can't activate Reclaimer in the same turn. And if we use these 3 to make this, we lose 2 lands. And we only have 2 lands up, which can then... So we can't do the endurance that way. Okay, I think we just have to pass a turn and hope that our opponent doesn't draw... I'm not sure they can make enough guys to kill us this turn. But if they have a Lion's Eye Diamond, then they can get there. Did you draw Lion's Eye Diamond or gamble? Either of those are pretty real. Reverent Silence. Sure, so I gain 6 life. It means they need to make a lot more goblins to try and kill us with Goblin Warstrike this turn. It does add +1 to their storm count. Tinder Wall. Okay. So that doesn't do it. Sure, so we managed to win that match. Probably one of the most interactive back and forth games a Charbelcher deck may have ever played, to be honest. It was quite fascinating. We had lots of wheels within wheels. They sort of like... They tried to combo us, we stopped it. Then they tried to combo us again. And we managed to prevent ourselves from dying, but then we kind of hamstrung ourselves for a few turns. Yeah, it was a really good match, which isn't something you say often against Charbelcher. We got one more round to go. Let's see if we can get the positive record. We're on the play. Our opponent is a 60-card deck. It's a weird one, but I think we can keep this. The double Dark Depths and Dryad Arbor is a little bit annoying, but we can play the Dryad Arbor and turn it into something else. Our opponent's mulliganed to 6 cards, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. We will start the game. If our opponent is a reanimated deck, we may want this crop rotation. But I think we should probably just play to what our best play is here. Like, we can't be holding up that crop rotation. If we had another green source that was untapped, then maybe we don't. Then maybe we can hold up the crop rotation. But I don't think we realistically can here. This Polluted Delta. Watery Graves. This is probably Death Shadow. Thought Seizing us. So probably going to lose crop rotation, would be my guess here. Although if they've got lots of counter magic, they might take the Sylvan Scrying, because that's obviously the safe one for us to cast, because it doesn't require an additional land to be sacked for it. Okay. Now it's our turn. We've drawn another crop rotation. So there's no way in which we get to... We don't... Should we be attacking there? Like, we do have a beatdown plan on our deck, but obviously helping our opponent's life total get below 13 is probably an error there. We do have a crop rotation we can surprise our opponent with, if they try and wasteland us or something, which is probably what they're going to be used for in this matchup, because our opponent is very much a wasteland heavy deck. They just deny your opponent's resources while filling up your own graveyard and then play a Delve threat, or a Murktide, which is a Delve threat. Sorry. Hymn to Turak. How do I feel about Hymn to Turak? Like, my hand's relatively redundant. This is fine. Not fine, but I can live with it. We still got this crop rotation our opponent doesn't know about as well. So we'll play out this Dark Depths. So we can go and get Yavimaya. I don't think we're attacking here this turn. So we can go and get Yavimaya with these two, and then we can crop rotate something as well. So Dryad Arbor is probably better served as a Yavimaya, I would imagine. A Wasteland, sure. This makes using the Elvish Reclaimer a bit more difficult, because if we Elvish Reclaimer, we don't have any green sources, so they can just wasteland whatever we don't. So if we play these two and get rid of our Dryad Arbor, our opponent can then wasteland our Dark Depths, and we don't have a green source to do anything about it. Which is pretty awkward for us. We need to draw another mana source this turn. A Pithing Needle, okay. That is fine here. Let's see if we can stick to Pithing Needle. Our opponent's got 3 cards in hand. We haven't seen a force from them yet. We haven't seen any counter magic. It's just all been the black half of the deck. A Force of Negation. What do they pitch? A Baleful Strix. Kind of need our opponent to use their wasteland on us, but they're not going to do that while the Elvish Reclaimer is up. Yikes. If we crop rotate here, and we're in trouble, I think we just have to... we can't even do that actually, can we? Try and crop rotate here. They might just wasteland us in response here, and I think that's going to be very good against us. Oh, they didn't. Excellent. Okay. So now their wasteland is ineffective. Well, a little bit ineffective. We do need to find more land is certainly helpful. So we can bash for 3. Our opponent then bashes us for 7. Then we bash for 3 and then we die. So that's probably not going to do it for us, is it? We could get the Glacial Chasm and try and win that way, but they do have a wasteland in play. Tricky. Tricky one to navigate this. Our opponent's being pretty shrewd with their wasteland. I would have cracked it off on the Dark Depths in response to the crop rotation personally. But I think holding it back at this point makes sense. Attack for 4, sure. An island. Let's see if they respond here. Again, it's a good time to do the Dark Depths. It does give us more information about what we need to find though. If they hit the Dark Depths, we probably go and find another Dark Depths because you've already lost one. Okay, they didn't do that. So we get the Thespian stage here. A Glacial Chasm. So we play the Glacial Chasm with the trigger on the stack. We pay to sack the Glacial Chasm to the Elvish Reclaimer to get ourselves a Ghost Quarter. The next turn we can make a 20/20. So we have to sacrifice our forest. Pretty techie play. We have to survive this next turn. Our opponent only has 1 card in hand though. If it's a Brazen Borrower, then we can get absolutely screwed here. But we can also chump block with our Reclaimer, which I think we're incentivized to do. It seems very difficult for our opponent to make this into a 12 power creature this turn. I think we might have been able to get there. If they draw another wasteland, then we're just screwed. But lots of ways in which we are screwed. Because our opponent has wastelands, I think we're incentivized to make the guy on our turn. We'll see what our opponent has. We could have Stifles and just get us with a Stifle, which would be a bit sad, but is the nature of the game sometimes. He's bashing us up for 4 here. They could play a Murktide, which gives them a blocker for a turn, which is pretty strong. Alright, so it's our turn here. A Green Sun Zenith. We don't have time to be playing around with Green Sun Zenith, I don't think. I think what we're doing here is Ghost Quartering our opponent's wasteland. Now, if they had a Brainstorm, they could use this as a free shuffle effect. I suspect they already have the only basic in their deck in play right now. So we will make this in their upkeep before they can play a wasteland. But at least if they have a Brazen Borrower, they have to do it on their turn. Okay, we got it. Okay, I'm really happy with how I played that game, to be honest. I thought the Glacial Chasm play was great. If I do say so myself. Yeah, let's go on to the sideboard then. So our opponent's going to have a bunch of wastelands and that sort of jazz. The endurance is going to be good here. The choke is going to be good here. The Pithing Needles are going to be good against wasteland. The Shadowspear can be okay. We can get in a situation where we're racing with our as the Saga. The Karakas is not going to do anything in this matchup, so we can board that one out. The Boseiju, I would like to keep. 1, it's a green source. 2, it can hit Powder Keg, which might be relevant. Primeval Titan is probably just too slow. The Ramunap Excavator is going to be good here. The Outland Liberator, not so much. Crop rotations is something I like to board out against decks that can hit a lot of your lands. Or counter your spells, sorry. So you can board out 2 of those. The other option is Exploration, which can sometimes be a bit lackluster in this deck. So we've got going here. I think this is looking where we want to be right now. We've just got these Endurances to make sure they can't play any of their Delve threats. I think we're very unlikely to be able to cast Primeval Titan. Is Crop Rotation... Like, we're going to use Crop Rotation mainly as a way of countering a Wasteland, potentially. What does this hand do? We Yavimaya, Pithing Needle, and then we're kind of... Where are we going with this hand is the question I have. We don't have either of our combo pieces. We don't have a way of shooting for anything. I think we should mulligan. This has one of our combo pieces and a Sylvan Scrying. We can keep this. We don't need 2 explorations. Let's keep the original art one. So we can get dazed out on our exploration potentially. And they are a Thoughtseize deck, so they can pluck it from our hand. A Ponder, sure. If they daze, it slows them down a little bit. Okay, for reasons we discussed in a previous round, I would like to play out my Elvish Reclaimer first. Now, it could have got hit by a daze there. But I think the upside is so high that it's worth playing out. They might be thinking about a Snuff Out. Yep, there's the Snuff Out, sure. So our opponent's down to 4 cards in hand. Back up to 5 for their draw step and a Flooded Strand. So they have Brainstorm, Fetch Land available, potentially. They're not casting anything. A Thespian stage. So we could try and play out an Exploration here as a bait spell, or we could try and play out the Sylvan Scrying. I quite like trying to play the bait spell here. Let's try this. Okay, that's resolved. We don't have an additional land to put in there, so it feels a little bit awkward. This deck probably needs an additional Yavimaya, is what I've come to discover. Okay, our opponent is just cracking that end of turn to take some damage. No brainstormy type stuff to go with it. They're cracking their Polluted Delta. They're getting another Shocklands. This is probably the Death Shadow turn. Court of Cunning. This is the one that gives them the monarchy and then mills me for 10 every turn. Alright. Well, I have an endurance, so I'm not the most worried about that. The monarchy is the bigger issue there. Okay, so I have an Elvish Reclaimer here. I'm going to try and Sylvan Scrying. Okay, so that resolved. Now the question is, what do I get here? I kind of want to get a Yavimaya. Expose me to Wasteland. A bit more, but that's fine. Then we can play out this Reclaimer. We can use this guy to potentially steal the monarchy next turn. However, our opponents hit the life total quite aggressively, which makes me think they're going to follow up with a Death Shadow this turn. Which might be something that is a little bit too difficult for us to push through. Okay, so we do have a 3-4 though. So let's pop our graveyard out and see what's been milled here. 2 Pithing Needles. Assertive Extraction on the Dark Depths. I will evoke my Endurance here. Kind of interesting to use the Court of Cunning as a way to make your assertive extractions better. It's not something I've really seen people do very much before. Now, this could get done by days, it can get done by force of will. I would like to shuffle my graveyard in, please. We put the evoke trigger on, so we're more likely to draw it. Now, our opponents spend a lot of life, so any Death Shadows are going to be large and somewhat in charge. But we can get our Dark Depths next turn. A Murktide Regent, sure. This is a 6-6. We could draw a Sejiri Steppe this turn and steal the monarchy. That'd be quite funny. Okay, we definitely can't do that now. So our opponent is representing a 2-turn clock right now. And it's about to get small. Okay. They're thought seizing away our last card. So they're going to go to 5. So it is still a 2-turn clock. That's our turn now. What does this do for us? We can get a Glacial Chasm. That doesn't really get us anywhere. We can go and get the Dark Depths, which you probably have to get in our opponent's in response to this trigger, in case somehow we get all of our Dark Depths milled, which is possible. Sacrifice this one. Let's go and get ourselves the Dark Depths. So next time we can make a 20/20 to block with, and hopefully our Reclaimer to block with. Our opponent drops a Wasteland, we lose the game. Our opponent has Brazen Borrower, we lose the game. Snuff Out kills us. Fatal Push kills us. Like, we're dead to many of our opponent's things here. And they are drawing 2 cards a turn. They're attacking with just the Death Shadow. That makes sense to me because you can attack with both next turn to kill me, but then I have more blockers next turn. I think you probably do attack with both this turn, just to make either of your creatures lethal next turn. Alright, let's see if we can get this one. This is the make or break turn. This is an incredibly good draw randomly because it blocks Death Shadow. So them not attacking with the Murktide Regent last turn could end up costing them. I think we're supposed to make the Dark Depths this turn. We make it before they get to play a a Wasteland. So this copies this, and we'll pay with this and this. And we'll keep this one and go to 2020. Brazen Borrower kills us. Well, it doesn't kill us this turn, but it's probably going to make things near impossible for us to win. If this Dryad Arbor was a land that came in that didn't have Summoning Sickness, we might have been able to use it to protect our Marit Lage. But now our opponent is looking for Brazen Borrower. The Murktide Regent can chump block for a turn, but I can also get a Sejiri Steppe. I'd rather let the Marit Lage get chump blocked because I can protect it from Brazen Borrower better. They did not shuffle their library with the Ponder, so they are... Okay, so it's another Ponder. I thought that would have to mean Brazen Borrower. They shuffled their library that time. Okay. I guess a Ponder is slightly better than one random card. So they can't attack this turn because I have a 20/20. And they do get to draw a card, which could be a Brazen Borrower. But once we untap, we are slightly insulated against that. A land is a good draw to have. Because we have 2 blockers here, I think we just send in the Clown. How many cards left in our library? 30, that's loads. So the Murktide region goes under the bus this turn. If they Brazen Borrow now, they should be putting the Murktide region in first, because then it will be blocked. If they try and Brazen Borrow before they go to blocks, and I give it protection, then they don't get to do it. Oh, is the Sejiri Steppe actually in our deck right now? Yes, okay. The Sejiri Steppe is in our deck right now. So if our opponent draws Brazen Borrower and mills our Sejiri Steppe, then we lose the game. Fatal Push on this guy. Interesting. What do we want to find off of this? I may as well sacrifice one of these. If we're losing a guy anyway. We can get the Sejiri Steppe here to protect our Reclaimer. Is that good enough just to protect our Reclaimer? Or do we get a Maze of Ith so we're more likely... I think if we get a Maze of Ith, they can't kill us by hurting themselves. Or we can get a Glacial... No, the Glacial Chasm's gone, isn't it? Do we get a Maze of Ith or do we get Sejiri Steppe here? If they have a sack effect. So are we playing around a sack effect? If they have a sack effect and a way of dealing themselves damage, they can deal themselves 3 here, which makes this 11-11. So we need to find one more point of damage, which could just be a fetch land. So I think we have to play the Maze of Ith, get the Maze of Ith here for the following turn. Maybe that should have been the Sejiri Steppe. I don't know. Maybe that's too defensive. If they kill our Dryad Arbor now, we're in trouble. The Court of Cunning, let's see what this mills. So if we'd have gone for the Sejiri Steppe on our Marit Lage to push the damage through last turn, then if they had the Borrower, they kill us. Maybe we should just try and finish the game there because our opponent's drawing 2 cards. It's a turn. And we'd also steal the Monarch back. I don't know. We'll see. I definitely feel like there's more decision points that in this game where I could have done something different. What have we got? We need to be able to remove our blocker. Okay, the Marit Lage. So Sylvan... so our Sejiri Steppe is still in the deck. So do we chump this turn or not? I think we don't. And we try and chump next turn. Alright, so we can draw the Sejiri Steppe. We can draw a crop rotation to get there. So we attack with this. I block with the Murktide. This goes. We untap our creature. We play a Pithing Needle. What do we name here? I think we're probably just naming the Wasteland. Powder Keg. Powder Keg actually wins them the game here, right? Powder Keg or Wasteland. They play more Wastelands, right? Tight game, this one. Like, we probably would have won if we'd have tried to force through. But I think it is right to play around considering the position we're in. Our opponent had to hit some runners here. But again, they are drawing 2 cards. And we have to kill them on the next turn because we get milled out. Sejiri Steppe is gone, so if they play a flying blocker, we can't do anything. Close game, this one. It's been really interesting, actually. Definitely had decision points that could have gone either way. Like, I could have saved my Elvish Reclaimer. The snuff out on the Dryad Arbor. Sure. So if we'd have chumped last turn, we'd have been in a better spot this turn. Well, I assume they're going to attack with both creatures here. Yeah, okay, we're done. Really close one, that one. Really close. So, is there anything we'd like to change here? Maybe we want this Outland Liberator back in, just as a way of blowing some stuff up. Probably better than a 3rd Exploration, I think. Right, we're on the play. Let's go and get him. Wowzers, trousers, that's a good hand. We'll keep this. So we can play out the Exploration and just throw our combo into play next turn, or we can play out the Reclaimer. I think we just play out the Exploration here. The Dark Depths is the one we care about getting wastelanded least, because this one doesn't give us mana. So we have the Sylvan Safekeeper as a bit of protection. Our opponent didn't play a wasteland. Okay, so we drew some pretty good things here. So we can make a 20-20 this turn if our opponent does nothing. If our opponent doesn't have Brazen Borrower mana up. A Brainstorm, sure. Otherwise, we can play it as a Saga game for a few turns, depending on what our opponent does. Kind of feel this deck needs more Yavimayas instead of forests. Scoring time, that's not a wasteland. So if they don't have Brazen Borrower, what is this going to be? A Baleful Strix. This is fine by me. We can Sylvan Scrying for the what's it called? Sejiri Steppe. So we'll copy this, tap these two. We'll keep this one. And this becomes 2020. It's our turn. An Elvish Reclaimer. Let's get a Sejiri Steppe. Bash you for 20. Yeah, we got there. All right, so we got the 3-2 in the end. Let's have a look at the deck. So, how did I feel about this deck? It was pretty good. Like the round we lost against Phil, who was playing the black-white initiative, was very close. If we'd have drawn like a land on our first, second, or third turn, I think our chances of winning that game are pretty reasonable. Definitely above 50%, but we didn't. So that was a bit unfortunate. So I think we were a little bit unlucky not to hit a 4-1 with this one. Now, what I would say about this deck, though, is despite the record being close to being a good one, there are a few little issues with the deck. Now, Exploration doesn't feel very good in this deck, if I'm being honest with you. If we were running Life from the Loam, so we could rebuy and make use of the Exploration, sure. All this did, really, was accelerate us on the first turn occasionally, and that was it. And I don't think that was really worth doing. And for similar reasons, the Mox Diamond didn't feel amazing because we didn't always have enough lands to pitch to it, and we don't have Life from the Loam to recoup that card loss. So I don't think these slots are where this deck wants to be, unless you're playing Life from the Loam. Now, if you're playing Life from the Loam, you're almost playing lands. You're just sort of cutting a few of the lands in favour of a Green Sun Zenith package. Now, we never got up to cast Primeval Titan, but we never played against any really slow control decks. Now, slow control decks, not very good in the format right now, so that might have something to do with it. But the Green Sun Zenith package didn't feel too bad. It gave us access to Sylvan Safekeeper, and we did win a game by Green Sun Zenithing for a Sylvan Safekeeper, if I recall correctly. So that was good. Like, obviously, the core of this deck, the Pithing Needles, the Dark Depths type stuff, the crop rotations, that all felt pretty good. The mana base, all of our techie things are pretty good. So Maze of Ith didn't actually come up. We got it in that last turn where we should have just got a Sejiri Steppe, I think. That would have been the smarter play, and that's what we should have done. I don't think it actually makes a difference there, but that would have been a slightly better play, I reckon. But all the other techie things, so the Boseiju, we Sylvan Scrying for that, and it was good. Bojuka Bog, yeah, did its thing. Dryad Arbor actually came in pretty clutch, which was nice. Field of the Dead didn't really do anything. The Ghost Quarter was excellent. It was another answer to Wasteland that we could go and find, which we did. We did that twice, I think, in that league. The Karakas, we bounced the Grizzlebrand, but you know, we just got reanimated, and that sometimes happens. And the Sejiri Steppe is an essential in this deck. The Urza Saga was really underwhelming in this deck. That was another thing. So let's put the cards that were underwhelming or not that relevant in this pile. So these are the things that didn't feel like they were doing very much. What I would have liked was more Yavimayas. So we can probably trade some of these Urza Sagas for Yavimayas. That would probably do us well. We could keep the Urza Sagas if we're putting more land into the deck. But a lot of the time, because we're trying to turbo more than sort of grind things out, like, I don't mind Urza Saga as a backup plan, but I don't think it was necessary. So I think maybe the Urza Sagas can go, and your backup plan is just mid-range Green Sun Zenith. So maybe you would want the Primeval Titan back in that situation. The Shadowspear can probably go if you're doing that as well. And the Zoranub and the sideboard can probably go if you're getting rid of Urza Sagas. You're just going to improve your mana base. You can probably have some more techie stuff, so you're going to be leaning a bit more into lands. Or what you could do, which I think is probably better, is run some black sources and maybe some of those little vampire hex mages and just play like black-green slow depths. But if you're determined to play mono-green depths, then I think you have to be having some other value in this deck. So probably Life from the Loam would be where I would start looking. Sylvan Library is another option that you have here as well. The Green Sun Zenith package was pretty good. What you could also do as well, if you're cutting some of these, is just have more things like, so if you're getting more green mana, you can more reliably cast Endurances. So bring these Endurances into the main, free up some sideboard slots, and then you've got a smoother main deck in terms of your beatdown plan that you might have to resort to. And you can probably fit in some removal spells in the sideboard if you wanted to. Now, you're going to be resorting to things like Dismember, which isn't really great, but it'll do in a pinch if it's killing a Magus of the Moon. Other than that, I think the core of Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, and these things that find lands is just strong. Making a 2020 is a strong thing you can do. Even when the meta changes, you can still do strong things. Now, what we might be in the market for is just going more turbo. So these could also be, you could take a leaf out of turbo lands and play, turbo depth, sorry, and play 4 Lotus Petal for Elvish Spirit Guide. So if you were running those instead of these ones, let's say, then your ability to turn 1 using the Thespian Stage is going to be, or well, maybe not turn 1, but turn 2 with the Thespian Stage is going to be increased by a significant margin. So that might be worth thinking about. And if you're doing that, maybe you would be better off playing black sources, but I think there is something to the green. Perhaps we could have some other threats up and down the curve a little bit. Something a bit more interesting, like, I don't know if Questing Beast is where you necessarily want to be since it is legendary, but something of that ilk maybe, like a really strong creature that can dominate the board. Now, what exactly a strong creature that dominates the board is in the world of initiative decks, I'm not really sure. But I think if we had ways of making Glacial Chasm and then putting more lands into play, so things like the Line from Malone so we can sit under Chasm for a few turns and build up our resources, then stage the Chasm, and then we can do that little switcheroo where we keep playing stages out to copy the Chasm until we have enough resources to go. But again, at that point, we're kind of doing what Cloudpost does, but not as well, because Cloudpost has the life gain off of its Glimmer Posts that offset things like Trap, and it also has just a big thing that it spells. So when it puts its shields down, it's casting an Eldrazi and winning the game. Whereas we don't have that. We have a 2020, but we don't necessarily have a big hammer. We can just go bam. Here is our Eldrazi. Can you beat this? Probably not. Even if you can, we still get another turn where we can reset what we were doing. But I think you could play this deck and tune it to be better. Like, you could probably spend a few sessions on this deck and get it up to getting trophies on leagues with it. I think it intrinsically is powerful enough. We know Green Sun Zenith is a strong card. We know the Elvish Reclaimer, Sylvan Scrying stuff is all strong. So I think we could probably improve this deck. And maybe at some point when I get time, I might do it. But we'll see. It wasn't the most fun depths deck, but it also wasn't unfun either. I liked the play patterns in it. We had that really sweet play against the Death Shadow player where we played our Glacial Chasm, used it for mana, sacked it to the Reclaimer to go and get the bits we needed. I really liked that play. So I had a lot of play to it, even though it was a bit clunky in this department. So we could probably fix this up. A little talk to the sideboard. Like I said, if we're getting rid of Urza Saga, we get rid of Zeranorb. Zeranorb was irrelevant, basically. It was cute, but didn't really do anything. The Mindbreak Trap's excellent. That's why you see Cloudpost decks playing 4 of them. Collector Roof can probably come in the main if we're getting rid of Mox Diamonds. That would definitely be a thing that I'd be interested in. The Chokes, we didn't see them, but they would have been good. Force of Vigor is standard, so the Endurances. But again, if we're bringing in these sorts of things into the main and getting rid of this, then that frees up 5 sideboard slots. So we could actually play some removal. We could play some other bits and pieces. I'm certainly a fan of that. We could also try and lean more into the Primeval Titan. So we could stick with an exploration package, but then have a few like more niche lands as well. So we could still have Urza Saga, but not 4 of them necessarily. And maybe have a couple more Primeval Titans, but that just feels like you're playing a worse version of Cloudpost then, rather than the Depths deck. So you should probably just play Monogreen Cloudpost if you're doing that. But I think, I know I've said it several times now, but I think this deck has got legs and you can fine tune it, and it's not just a strictly speaking worse version. Like the Green Suns package being wider is good. Having a more stable mana base with more utility lands in to make use of your tutor suite is good as well. All right, I think that's us done for today. And if you're still here, please hit that subscribe button. Like my content is also great. And if you can comment, it boosts up the algorithm. And even better, post it to your Discord groups or your Facebook groups or whatever, and just let people see more Legacy being played, because it's the best format you can play with Magic the Gathering. And I would love to have some more followers. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the greenest of Depthsember decks. Goodbye.